Our first step is just a very simple right angle weave base. So, and how we're going to do that is we're going to start with a pearl, pick up an 11-0, a crystal, and then an 11-0, another pearl, and then another grouping of 11-0, crystal, and 11-0. So these are your 4 units. You have your 6mm pearl, your grouping of 11-0, crystal, 11-0, another pearl, and then lastly your grouping of 11-0, crystal, 11-0. And I'm just going to carefully, because I do not have a stop bead, I'm just going to very carefully bring these down all the way to almost the end of my thread. I'm just leaving like a tail of about a couple of inches. And then I'm just going to go through until I'm coming out of my second pearl. Whoops, and hold on to your tail. And then just pull so you can make your first unit. And this is what you should have. Okay? So this is what you should have. Here's your first unit. Now let's do our next one. Since we're coming out of our pearl, that's our first pearl already. So it's 11-0, crystal, 11-0, pearl, and then my final unit or grouping, 11-0, crystal, 11-0. Oops, I got one too many 11-0s over here. So just check your units to make sure you have the right amount of beads. Okay, so my 2 groupings, my pearl and my grouping. And coming out of this pearl, I'm going to circle around and go through that pearl again. And then this will give me my second unit. Whoops. Coming out of there, I'm sorry, I have to go in through this side. All right, and pull. And there we go, our second unit. So I'm going to show you how to do one more. Again, I'm coming out of this pearl here, right there. I'm just going to make my way up to that last pearl. Going to go through it, and then once again our grouping with our 11-0, crystal, 11-0, pearl, and then our grouping 11-0, crystal, 11-0. Whoops. And I'm just checking. Oh, I forgot to get another 11-0 here. Or maybe it fell off. Probably fell off my needle. And then I always give it a quick check before I sew it into the bead here and pull. So I have my little units here, and then as I'm going, I'm just gonna keep like doing this to them like that, just so they stay more or less not as funky. So this is what you should have, and I'm gonna go ahead and do this until I have about either 20 or 21 pearls, probably 20. Your bracelet will not shrink, but just take into consideration the kind of clasp you're gonna use on the end. So on this one I use 23, and it's a little bit big on me, so I'm going to use less, but I also have to consider my clasp. So I'm going to use one of these. These are like my favorite clasps right now. So I have a good amount of spacer, so I'm going to use just like 20 pearls. So I'm going to finish this step up, and then I will meet you back. Okay, I have my 21 pearls, and this is already looking really pretty. And you can even leave it like this, just add your clasp, and you have a bracelet. But, well, I'm gonna do some more work on it. So, I'm coming out of my last pearl here. I'm going to go down into my 2mm crystal. Okay, so come out of your crystal. Now from here, we're going to, oops, I need my 15-ohs. Now we're going to be working with just our 15-ohs. So, putting some there. And I'm gonna pick up 6. So you need 6 of your little 15-ohs. And I have 3 and 3. Coming out of my crystal, get a little bit closer. Coming out of my crystal here. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm coming out of this crystal. I'm going to go into the one across from it that way. So I'm going to go in through the same side I'm coming out of, and just the crystal only, and pull, and that's going to put your 6 beads on like that. Now from here, I'm going to pick up one 15-oh. I'm coming out of my crystal. I'm going to pick up one only. I'm going to skip one 15-oh, and I'm going to go through the 4 middle 15-ohs. So I'm going through 4, and so that leaves one here, right there at this end, and that leaves one little 15-oh at that end. And I'm going to pull. So we have that, and then I'm just going to pick up one more 15-oh, and I'm going to go back through this crystal where we started from. So that is how, well, I'm also going to go following my thread path by sewing through the crystal, the 11-oh, and then I'm just going to go down this, this pearl after it. Okay, so that puts my little 15-ohs in place. Coming out of my pearl, I'm gonna sew till I get to my next crystal, and this time we're on this side because we started up here. Now we're on this side. So coming out of my crystal, I need 6 15-ohs. 3, 4, 5, 6. Coming out on this side, I'm going to go in through the same side I'm coming out of. So through the crystal only. And this is easy, I just can't see. All right, so coming out of that crystal, and my beads are in place. Now I'm going to pick up one 15-oh. I'm going to skip one 15-oh here, the first one, and I'm going to go through the middle 4. So each time you go through your 4, you should have one 15-oh here and one 15-oh at this end. And that gives you like your little Y shape. And then I'm going to pick up one more 15-oh, and I'm going to go through this crystal, the 11-oh next to it, and out the pearl. And then I'm going to sew I'm going to sew until I get to my next crystal. So I'm putting this in here, pulling, and got my beads in place. And then I'm already coming out of this 15-oh, so I'm just going to sew in through my pearl, and then I'm going to sew until I get to, I'm going to go sew through this 11-oh, this crystal, and I'm going to do the same thing. So go ahead and do that all the way down your bracelet. Okay, so I added all of my 15 O's here on top. And I think sometimes when I use my crystal rounds and I accidentally messed them up. So I think maybe a couple 3mm rounds I accidentally snuck them into my little tube of 2mm. So I might have some in here, but I think it'll work. I think it'll be okay. All right, so I'm meeting my tail thread actually, and I did tie a knot. Yeah, I did. All right, so now I'm gonna add one part of my clasp. So I'm just gonna go through my pearl and I'm just gonna do something simple. This has a little, why am I not in frame? Okay, I'll be back. Okay, this is better. All right, so I'm gonna pick up 4 11 O's, and this is just how I'm attaching my clasp. You don't have to do it this way. You don't have to use this kind of a clasp. You can do whatever you want. Okay, so I did 4. I'm gonna go through 1, and then I'm gonna pull, and then I'm going to go pick up 3 more 11 O's, and I'm gonna go back through my pearl, and I'm just going to reinforce this again. And okay, there we go. Okay, so this is how mine is gonna look. I really like these clasps, and there's so many different colors of cabochons you can use. I went ahead and I glued mine last night, so it's good to go. Okay, I'm just reinforcing everything that I did so that my clasp will be on there. And then I'm going to go down these 3. And there we have it. So, and I'm just going to go through my pearl. So next what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the final pass on my bracelet. This is where we add our little 1 11 0 here on the side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a new piece of thread, and I'm going to get 2 needles, and I'm going to put it through my pearl, and I'm going to have 2 needles attached on each side. And I'm going to do that because I want to make sure the tension is even on both sides. This is such a pretty bracelet, and I know sometimes I have a tendency to pull a little bit too tight, and then my bracelet ends up like with a slight curve like that, and it really bugs me. So to make sure that I don't do that to this really pretty bracelet, I'm going to get a new piece of thread, and I'm going to use 2 needles. Again, you don't have to do that. If you're pretty good doing one needle right angle weave projects and you're really awesome with your tension, then go for it. Just use 1 needle. But I'm going to go ahead and get mine ready, and I will be back. All right, so I added a new piece of thread, and it's got a needle on each side of it. And remember, I had a thread sticking out on this side for my previous and one on this side. I just tied with this end, I tied a knot with a piece of thread that I had on this side, and with this end over here, I did the same thing with the thread over here. So before I embellish, I'm just gonna go up these 11 O's, and I'm not gonna go through the one right underneath the clasping. I'm just gonna go across to these 3, because I want to add one more 11-0 here. See, those are the little pieces of the thread that I just tied knots to, that I burned. I didn't burn them down all the way, but I will do that when I'm done. Whoop. And then down these 3 here. And okay, see, these are my little ones that were sticking out. I will continue to burn those down completely after I'm done. Okay, it's coming out of here. Now I'm just, and excuse my hands, I know my hands look so dry. I've always been a hand washer, even before these last 2 years. I've always been a hand washer, so I always use really, really hot water, so I think that's why I have such dry hands. So coming out, I just picked up one 11-0, and then I'm going to go through this 11-0 and the crystal, and I'm going to come out through this 11-0 here. So we need to be coming out our little groupings of where our 2 11-0s are. You see? See how we have our grouping here, 2 11-0s, 2 11-0s, 2 11-0s. In between each of those groupings, we're just going to add, whoops, 1 11-0. And then go through, and then just pull it enough to where you put your bead in there. Okay, now I'm going to do that again over here. 1 11-0. You don't even have to do this part. Your bracelet already, again, after you completed the part adding your 15-0s, again, that was another place where you could just come to a stop. But here's what we got. It looks so pretty with this, doesn't it? So now I'm going to do this side, and very patiently I'm just going to do about 2 at a time, and then I'll work on the other side. The first one that I made, I actually, yeah, on that one too, I switched it to 2 needles just to make sure everything came out pretty, because I know how I am. Sometimes I'm just like really rough. And stay in frame, Marissa. Okay, but you know what I'm doing now, right? I'm just putting an 11-0 through each of my groupings until I go all the way down, and then once I'm coming out of my pearl, I'm gonna sew it on to the other part of my clasp. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I will meet you back so we can look at the finished piece. Okay, well, this is my finished piece. Well, sort of. And the reason I say sort of is because I messed up. I was so excited to show this to you that when I met my threads, see, and you can see here, after I added the other part of my clasp, I added the 2 little, the 1 11-0 on each side. I just sewed down, went through this pearl, and I met my thread. And then I cut my thread without tying a knot. So I'm gonna have to, I mean, I don't have to take it apart or anything. I would just have to, like, I probably just have to remove my clasp. Just remove enough beads to where they're long enough to tie a knot, and then add my clasp again. But this is how it looks when it's all done, and I just wanted to show you how it looks. And this is how it looks on the wrist. I really like this. I really like this. It's so pretty. Let me fix my thing here really quick. It's really pretty. I really like it. And yeah, so this is what we got. This is what we got. And These clasps are just amazing because there's so many different color cabochons you can put on there. And to finish off the bracelet, I don't know, I just love them. I really like these a lot. I bought pretty much, well, not all of the different color cabs that go in there, but I bought a lot of them. So, and I really like them. So anyway, this is what you should have, or something like this. I'd love to see, love to see how this would look with gemstones. So I'm probably going to try that next. But anyway, I hope you really enjoy making this. If you get a little bit too excited, just don't do what I did. Tie your knot first before you cut your thread. So anyway, I hope you enjoy making this, and thank you very much for watching.